All right, so pretty crazy news coming out of Canada. And this is from CanGal48 here on Twitter saying, so while we've all been distracted with the US election and the virus, the Senate is in second reading of a bill that would lower the voting age in Canada to 16. Where is the opposition on this one, and why is this the first I'm hearing of it? Now, again, the Senate of Canada just tweeted out yesterday saying senators are now discussing Senator Marleo's Bill S-209 at second reading in the Senate. And it says an act to amend the Canada Elections Act and the regulation adapting the Canada Elections Act for the purposes of a referendum. So again, I don't know if they would put it up to a vote whether or not you would lower the voting age. I don't know exactly how that all works, but nonetheless, it's something that we should be talking about for the simple reason that we shouldn't be doing it. Lowering the voting age is absolutely insane. It's complete insanity. The conversation should be around making it harder to vote, right? Either raising the age. I mean, in a perfect world, we would make it. I mean, perfect world, we wouldn't have it to begin with, but you're never going to convince enough people of that. Um, I think that it should be harder. I mean, something along the lines of a basic civics test, a basic critical thinking test. That should be something we should look into. Something along the lines of um, not allowing people that are dependent upon the government to vote, because again, it's impossible to vote objectively when you're entirely dependent upon something that isn't sustainable continuing, right? Like if you're on welfare, it's not possible for someone to vote objectively, right? Like, it's not possible. So that's the first thing to point out. But again, lowering the voting age is absolute insanity. And why do people want to do it? Well, they want to do it because it would benefit their political side, right? And that it's largely the left that wants to do it. And why do they want to do it? Because high schools and colleges too, but in this case it would be high schools, is that they're very left leaning. And I think anybody who denies this is living like you live in a massive echo chamber if you don't recognize that. Even going to school in one of the most conservative areas of Canada, I still had noticed a rather large, not incredibly large, but still noticed a political bias in the way that people were taught. And the thing to point out too is that people say, "Oh no, it's not that bad," which depends how you look at it. The key is the fact that a lot of the bias comes from the fact of what they don't teach you, right? This is another reason why the mainstream media is so bad, is because a lot of times it's just lies by omission. It's lies by not teaching kids about the history of socialism and communism, how it always fails, and how tons of people end up dying usually because of it. Again, it's lies by omission, right? Like you learn endlessly about how bad the Nazis were, right? You learn endlessly about how bad that is, and again, you should learn about that, but it shouldn't be the entirety of what they teach you. But when it comes to communism, it's the Red Scare, basically, and McCarthy was crazy. That's all you learn about. That's all you learn about communism and socialism in school, which is about as biased as you can possibly do it. Like, just imagine if someone proposes changing the way we think of Hitler and whatnot. Oh, some people were paranoid about this Hitler guy and the political faction that he led. Like, that would be absolute insanity. But that's basically what we teach people when it comes to communism, right? Even and like I say, communism has killed way more people, like way more people than the National Socialists did. So again, there's no argument to debunk that. So yeah, that's why they want to lower the voting age. They want to lower the voting age because they want it to be easier to win elections, right? Um, if they wanted, and here's the thing, like the big problem when it comes to democracy these days is that the average person is incredibly ignorant, like incredibly ignorant. And if anything, that's an understatement. Again, a lot of people will probably say that, oh, you're being mean. No, incredible. If anything, that is an understatement. For the simple reason that people are just completely oblivious to what's going on out there. Most people are they're one or two issue voters, and even if you want to argue that that's okay, the problem with most people is that, like I say, they only care about a very select amount of issues. And the worst thing about it too is that they're completely unaware of what the other side believes and why they believe it. And that's the main reason why things are so polarized these days, is because people don't do that. And until people do that, then it's going to be impossible to mend this political divide that's facing us. So again, that's the first thing I wanted to bring up here. The next thing is from Brett Sears here, and he says there never was any economic damage caused by the you know what. It was all caused by extreme overreactions of politicians and their appointed health officials. The media just doesn't seem to get this. And again, it's a very good thing to point out. It's something that I've pointed out a lot before. But again, so many people still don't know this, and that the virus did not cause any of the damage that we are facing. And again, the majority of the damage we're facing is going to be down the road. It's not going to be in the here and now. So that's something that people need to keep in mind. But again, people need to understand that, again, the virus did not cause any of this. What caused it was the government overreaction to it. And again, one of the main arguments you hear when you tell people this is, oh, well, hindsight's 2020. We didn't know. And again, that's fair. Like, but again, after the first month, maybe 6 weeks tops, there was no reason to have things shut down. There was no reason at all. So again, looking back on it, the majority of the you can't describe the whole hindsight's 2020 argument to this. You can't, because it's not fair. It's not fair because we've had ongoing lockdowns for 7 or 8 months now, when most of it was completely unnecessary. Like I say, if you want to argue the first month was necessary, fine, but any time past that was completely unnecessary. So just remember again that all of the damage that has been caused and will be caused is because of people that continuously ignored the evidence. And again, I don't really have a lot of sympathy for a lot of these people too, because I've emailed all the city councilors in the city I live in, and I've only gotten responses from one of them, and they're about as out to lunch as you can possibly get on the issue. So again, these people, they're well aware of the evidence that goes contrary to their opinion. And again, when I talk to these people, I just send them links. I send them links to studies that show that masks don't work. I send them links to the damages caused by the lockdowns. And again, like I say, no responses whatsoever. They don't really care. And again, that's why, again, I'm not letting anyone off the hook when it comes to this kind of stuff personally. And again, if you want to, it's up to you. But personally, I'm not. And another good point by Jürgen Ampf here, saying there's two classes of people: those who work to get paid, and those who get paid whether they work or not. Guess which ones are more likely to want everybody to stay home and wait out the virus? And again, it's a very good point in that this is why I so vehemently can't stand the teachers, is that to them, some slight uncomfortability is enough to completely, we got to shut everything down. But again, they still want to get paid, right? Like, if you told the teachers and went to the unions and said, yeah, you don't have to work this year, but you ain't getting paid. Do you actually think they're not going to want to work? Well, of course they will, right? So this is the problem too, is that these people want to have it both ways. They want to not be able to work but still get paid. And that's the big problem too, is that, like I say, I guarantee you, if you told all these government workers and teachers and all these the unions, is, yeah, you don't have to work, but you ain't getting paid if you don't work. Of course they're going to want to work, because everybody, or at least pretty much everybody, knows in the back of their mind that this isn't nearly as bad as what we've been led to believe it is. It's been grossly overstated, and again, if anything, that's an understatement. And again, the reason why there's so many paranoid people about it is, number one, they're very susceptible to propaganda, and number two, it doesn't affect a lot of these people personally, right? Like, the minute that it's very odd too. Like, the minute it affects these people personally, then all of a sudden they change their mind, right? Like, you've seen all these politicians that aren't following rules, all these celebrities and these rich and powerful people that have gotten exemptions to these rules. Again, that when it doesn't affect them, then they don't care, right? They don't care. But the minute it affects them, then all of a sudden they care. And then again, that's why I'm vehemently against all this kind of stuff, because it would be very easy of me to say, yeah, we're going to have restrictions all of the activities that I don't like doing and all the businesses that I don't go to. It would be very easy of me to say that, but again, that would be incredibly hypocritical and just stupid, and it's unnecessary as well. So again, that's why I will defend any business. It doesn't matter whether I like them or not, right? So again, that's another thing, another very good point there. And the last thing I wanted to talk about again, last week, I think it was a week ago exactly, actually, Twitter stock was down 21%. And I think that was the day or the day after Jack Dorsey testified to the Senate and lied about a bunch of stuff. And again, I mean, the first thing to point out too is that it's very crazy that we can have these rich and powerful people that can lie under oath to the Senate or to Congress and have no punishment whatsoever, but yet, if the average person did that, they'd get thrown in jail for a decade, right? It's absolute insanity. It's absolute insanity. And again, the other thing to point out here is that it's good that these companies are finally starting to feel the brunt of their craziness. In that, I mean, this is what they should get. This is what they should get. I mean, in a perfect world, Twitter, YouTube, Google, all these companies would go out of business tomorrow, right? Like in a perfect world. I mean, that's not going to happen, but they deserve their stock to go way down because they're incredibly biased, and again, they won't even admit it too. It's crazy the people that bring up the whole "I'm a private company" argument, but on the flip side, they'll claim they're not biased, right? So again, it's just these never-ending contradictions that I really can't stand. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. If you haven't already, make sure you follow me on those other platforms. Donate if you'd like to do that too. I got links for everything. Make sure you check those out. I'd really appreciate that.